Hello and welcome back to the Script Heroes podcast, Strange Saturday Super Show. This month we are talking about Bad Reception, a book
That's right.
from writer, artist, colorist, letterer Wang Do. This came out of Aftershock Comics a good few years ago, and it's been on my shelf for a while. It had a real catchy log line where it's the celebrity
certainly.
wedding of the century, and a murder comes to the reception, and so people start dying. But as always with the Strange Saturday Super Show, we are going to give you a full-blown run-through of the entire book.
Spoilers.
All of them spoilers. So if you don't want to know who dies, if you don't want to know who kills, all that good stuff, make sure to go read the book, then check back in, and we can all share our thoughts together.
Please don't, please don't abandon us. Come back.
Oh no, it's a
don't
little
be
pathetic
like that
at the top there. Your dad, who lovely supports the podcast.
You don't know. He could have left for a while.
You know. In any case, we're gonna jump right into it here, and we start with a kind of blank canvas. The first few pages of this book are dark, with then a blood stain running across them. It's a real bold stylistic move, and one of those things that you definitely see when it's somebody who's the writer and the artist on their own project. They know that they can use
the colors
that
and the letter, actually.
And the colors and the letter, Wang Do firing on all cylinders. But we have a podcast happening with Blaze, who is our groom, and he is telling this interviewer all about his new book, #Off the Grid. I'm sorry, ## Off the Grid. And about how, the ails of social media and what they're doing to all of our brains and how we interact with each other. It's a strong way to start the book. And by strong, I mean bold. Because it really asks you to buy right into sort of a manifesto at the beginning, which we kind of thought was going to be the case. I know that I had expressed some concerns that with the premise of it, it very much could be very heavy-handed, and they certainly didn't start off with a light hand.
No, the hand starts pretty heavy to open us up here. It's certainly a lot to ask you to essentially start the book by reading prose when you signed up for a comic book, and it goes on for quite a while, and then we don't exactly shift into 6 double page spreads. It's 1 page, then 2, 3, 4 double page spreads. So 4 double page spreads after a single page. So like 9 pages of that.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't exactly get less bold as the rest of the issue is then all double page spreads. Yeah,
which I'm not against. I think that it is something that you don't see a lot, possibly for a reason. Especially, I believe you were reading digitally. I have my physical somewhere, but
I am reading digitally.
Also, I read it digitally, even though I know that I have it. I literally showed it in the last episode, and somehow it left my zone of self and is gone forever. I imagine it might have read a little better physically.
I'm sure,
but I certainly see why in a current age of comic reading, people don't tend to do this anymore. A double page spread is fun and exciting when it's fun and exciting. But this was just kind of the way that all the pages looked. It did have this
and none of them are double page splashes either. They're very densely packed 2-page
very
spreads.
Dialogue heavy.
Full of panels and dialogue and characters.
What I will say I think worked really well on this, they have this visual metaphor going. And by visual metaphor, I mean a pretty literal thing happening. But, as readers who understand dramatic irony, we kind of know what's going on. It's kind of like 2 columns, 2 rows of this 2-page spread. And then the bottom of the 3 rows is a completely different setting where there's, a lot of hunter imagery coming in that we can obviously extrapolate is going to tie it to the whole murderer part of it all, which was quite exciting to have going on in the background. It added a really good sense of unease to this opening
fully
section.
agree with that. I do want to get you back because I think I derailed you from the plot there because we were talking about form a lot. But if you want, we can get back to the plot
Yes,
now.
we'll
I
jump back
apologize
onto
for
the
the
plot.
derailment.
That's right. It's a really cool form thing that they do in this
It
book.
felt like something to talk about when it was the first issue. I assumed when the first issue was like this that the rest of the series was going to continue
and then
with
it
all
was not, which
2-page
was
spreads.
interesting.
Yeah, it was not.
Yeah. I kind of missed it. I'm not gonna lie. It made it a little more difficult to read digitally, but it was the I always
It's
appreciate
interesting to
something
make such a big
bold.
statement in like the first issue and then kind of made it out. But anyway,
But
continue,
back
please.
to the plot.
Yeah.
We go through as Blaze and Gaia, who Gaia being our bride, they're talking about the wedding. They're talking about how they feel about going off the grid, and then they start talking about their guest list. It's going to be a completely private affair. We learn that Gaia is like one of the most followed people on the internet. She's got almost 1 billion followers. Crazy. And so it's like a real big deal. She makes a post saying that she's going to be off the grid, and it's caused an uproar, especially with the first person we see invited to the wedding, which is Liz, her manager, who doesn't seem too fond of the idea of this off the gridness.
Not at all.
No, but being her social media manager, you wouldn't expect her to be. The two do seem to have a good rapport, though. They have like a cute dynamic where she's very much like kind of serious all business, and then we have our little artist in Gaia, and so they have a fun friction between them.
Agreed.
But quite frictionless, our next guest to the wedding is Damaris, one of Gaia's old NYU school friends. They have a cute little bump into each other on the street where Gaia has her hood up and sunglasses on so she can go incognito and presumably not get swarmed by fans. And they have a really sweet little reunion. We learn that they haven't talked to each other in a really long time, and so this wedding is going to be an opportunity for them to reconnect as besties. We then see Gaia go on another ridiculous adventure in another ridiculous costume to invite her old friend Aaron, who gave her big break in the film scene, to invite him to the wedding. He's a bit of a recluse because he had some movies bomb and has been kind of like memed to death on the internet because of the quality of his movies.
Yeah.
But she turns the charm on, absolutely convinces both of these people to come to her wedding, and it's a sweet look into Gaia's character. We get to see why she's so charming and how she has, gotten the social pull that she gets. Then we cut to our friend Blaze on the plane, going off to invite one of his dear friends to the wedding. But on the way, we get a glimpse at a notepad that he's writing in, full pen and paper style, because he's really committed to the aesthetic.
He's off the grid, man.
He's off the grid, dude. And we can see that he's writing what seems to be some sort of a horror fantasy about a social media star being murdered and branded with a hashtag. $10 says that won't come up later.
Unrelated to anything going on, obviously.
Of course. But he arrives to invite his friend, who's like a kind of Conor McGregor figure, it seems. Like a fighter who's really iconic for like fucking people up. And like
he's a very large man compared to Conor McGregor.
Insanely large man. But yeah, his name is Jurek, and he agrees to come. And apparently his girlfriend is a bitch, and she's gonna come too. Our final guest is a surprise not only to us as the readers, but to Blaze and honestly a little bit to Gaia as well, because she was very much up in the air over whether or not she was going to invite this person.
Yeah.
We see her invite her dad, who is just about to be released from prison.
Wild. They'll be like, oh yeah, it's just her dad in prison. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Here's the thing: there's nothing that a comic book loves more than a dad in prison.
That's like you are so right. You are.
Everyone loves drawing the jumpsuits.
It's very true. But that takes us to the end, I think. Of
the
first
issue 1. So it's a lot of setup happening there for what is to come. Like we don't even get to the wedding in issue 1.
And I'm gonna I'm interested to hear you feel. I'm going to say right off the bat, I think issue 1 is the weakest part of this book. I think issue
I
1
fully agree.
is fairly weak. It again, it asks a lot of you right up front to just read all of that like podcasting that doesn't really like that much of it wasn't necessary for where the book like actually goes. Then it's a lot of like go here recruit character, go here recruit character, and it's setting up the personality of the characters a lot because this book leans very hard into giving all these characters like very specific personalities. But as an issue, it just doesn't feel like it really does anything fantastically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we had a similar problem with the first issue of the Kelly Thompson Birds of Prey, where it felt like it was just introducing a bunch of characters without actually giving us any story to sink our teeth into. I think the personality setup in this one is something that we've also talked extensively about when it comes to like writing victims in horror books and writing the cast of scary media. And so like that personality groundwork is really important, but only if you can get your readers to stick with you. Like the characters aren't so exciting that had we not been reading this as, you know, a full volume, I don't know that it would have been enough to compel us to keep going on.
And I think it's a little bit of like have your cake and eat it too, where it's like this book actually had the room to do all this character setup and do some plot work if it didn't dedicate nearly 10 pages to a dialogue exchange with no real artwork. You know, like.
And the thing is, I think that the idea of the like dialogue layered over the drag of blood is actually really cool, and I think it's something that would have served this really well if it was like in a webtoon format or like a vertical scroll format.
I think like if it was just done on like the opening double splash or like two like it just went a bit too long.
Yeah, which then did make it feel even worse when you didn't get quite what you wanted out of that first issue. But we jumped to issue 2. Yeah. And we're at the wedding. We get a little bit of a montage moment where we see, you know, speeches being made, helicopters coming in, phones being locked in a safe, wedding rings put on, all the stuff you'd expect to happen.
All the good stuff.
At a wedding. And then we get this, I think, really good double splash page of the whole wedding party, so not the actual bride and groom, but everybody kind of raising a glass, and we get little thought bubbles for them, which is something this book does not infrequently. These thought bubbles, which you like never see anymore, which I think was a fun addition.
I liked it.
Especially for like a kind of whodunit type of,
and I like how this page like shows off the very like Juan does a good job of like giving very distinctive silhouettes and body types to all of the characters. Like them seeing them all next to each other, they all have very unique looks, which is nice.
It's super nice, especially when, you know, you're in a horror book, so a lot of it's like dark and spooky. Exactly. And I think that it gave like a really good ominous start to this issue. We then find that Blaze and Gaia are they send their guests off. They have their security detail coming with their entertainment for later, and the gang starts to get to know each other. We see the interactions between all of these characters, which I think was actually really beneficial for this, because I think that's something where a lot of times you'll have these characters and it feels like maybe one of them is connected to one of them, maybe one of them is connected to another one, but I do think you got a really good like spiderweb effect of character relationships.
A lot of it was like peppering in little potential motivations for a killer, where a lot of it's like, oh, they kind of wanted something from this person, and maybe that person didn't give it to them, or maybe you could see what this person would have to gain from taking out the, like, it was a very nice, subtle way to put in some potential groundwork for potential killers.
And some of that groundwork, we see Liz and Gaia's father, Tommy, interacting. We learn that Tommy stole, like, billions of dollars from Gaia and then went to prison for that. And we see that Liz does not treat him nicely because, you know, she came in and cleaned it all up. We see Anastasia, who's Yorick, the fighter, his girlfriend. She tries to get onto Liz's client list, and Liz is pretty quick to coldly shut her down. We see Anastasia being, you know, kind of bitchy in front of Gaia's bestie, who doesn't like that she's like ruining the vibes of the wedding. So like Jay's saying, a lot of good groundwork. And we see Aaron the filmmaker air his grievances about how sad his life is with his flopped movies. Soon enough, dinner is ready, and the guests head over there. But Gaia and Blaze share a private moment, which is rudely photographed by their wedding photographer, who was told not to photograph at the reception. So we get another kind of motivation from a member of the guest list.
Yep.
Then we get our first dose of what bad reception is really about. The photographer is sent away to go develop his film in the dark room that they provided, and as he is developing these photos, he sees a horrifying figure in the background of one of them with glowing red eyes, and he's stabbed through the eye with an ice pick and murdered.
And what I think is one of the best sequences in this book.
Agreed.
Like, this is phenomenally illustrated. I love it. It's such a good build, and then just a grotesque murder, as you want,
which you gotta love. Exactly. Yeah. So it really comes out running with issue 2. We're like probably a third of the way into the issue, maybe halfway through the issue, and we've got our first kill, which is good because again, that first issue dragged a little bit, but so we've got our first kill. We're off to the races. We then find that Liz, the manager, has smuggled a secret phone to the wedding, even though there were supposed to be no phones. But she can't find any reception because they've also put a dampener out so that nobody can get. They got bad reception. How many times are we going to make that joke?
Well, the book itself makes that joke.
The book itself also makes the joke, yeah. But in her attempt to find reception, Liz instead finds the body of the photographer, setting off, the discovery of murder. It's very exciting. Outside, everybody is having a roasted pig over a fire, which is quite the aesthetic as well. And we get a sense of everyone's relationships again. Anastasia actually is like directly a bitch to Gaia, which is wild to see. To be like, ma'am, this is her wedding. What are you doing? Which again upsets Gaia's bestie, because she is here to preserve the vibes. We stand. But she walks off, which, we as readers know that there's a murderer on the loose now, so it's very exciting to see characters like storm off on their own.
Separating. Never split.
Never a good idea. But speaking of separated characters, Liz, with the body of the photographer, is found by Tommy, Gaia's father, who also has a camera because he's been taking photos of the wedding so that he can sell them to Jeff Bezos for $1 billion. Or it was like $10 million.
It was 700 million. I think it was 700 million. Yeah.
Insane.
Or maybe it was 700. I don't know. It was some amount of money.
It was something absurd.
I think it was 700 million.
But so
Wild
he
thing.
catches Liz with the body and with her phone, which is frankly possibly the worst crime to the two of them. And then he and Liz find that they actually have some common ground in that they would much rather preserve their relationship with Gaia to tell her the truth, because they've caught each other with these devices, both of them clearly with ulterior motive happening, and they agree to cover for each other, so that they can have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
When the murder is announced, everyone is decidedly aghast, and it makes for a pretty good issue ender, as we know these characters just, diddled around near a body for a while because they were trying to turn a profit.
Diddled around.
I suppose that's probably the wrong word. Dilly-dally. I think it's what I was
probably the
for.
worst word because it makes it sound like they're doing shit with the body.
I said near a body. No, they dilly-dallied around near a body, and we've got the big "there's been a murder" moment, which is always exciting to book because that means a murder's happening. But that takes us to issue 3. I do think that issue 2 was definitely a big step up from the first.
I agree. I think it was a very big improvement. A lot actually gets rolling. the murders actually happen. Like it starts to really be what you want out of this book, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that once I really went on a bit of a roller coaster with this book for sure.
Yeah.
But so issue 3 opens with the chef who they invited high on mushrooms, trying to forage for more mushrooms, only to be found by the murderer. We'll get back to his murder in a quick second, but Anastasia tries to, be a better guest, while Jurek just wants to bone. But when they I suppose we'll get back to her as well. We do a lot of cutting between scenes.
Yeah,
which
we
I
do.
think very much works when all of this is like happening at the same time. It gives a
Yeah,
good
no,
sense
this
of
felt
like,
very natural.
yeah,
It didn't in the moment. It doesn't feel very choppy.
agreed. It's just when retelling it,
Yeah.
you get going on something and then you lose it. But so the main party has gone to look at this murder, which like I guess fair, but also my word. They discover that the body has this like hashtag on the back of its neck, which you may remember from the plane and the story. Blaze is specifically very interested
Yep.
in kind of the puzzle of the murder, whereas
Yeah.
everyone else is mostly aghast and afraid, which is
Yeah.
valid. But Anastasia wanders back out to where everyone was eating so she could, supposedly play nice and make up for being a bitch earlier. But when she reveals the tarp that had been covering the pig, instead on the steak, we find the chef, fully naked, like spit roasted all the way through.
Yep.
Horrifying.
Utterly.
It's they do a real good job with the death in this book.
Yeah.
They
And he's also got a hashtag, importantly.
He does, yes. They find this hashtag as well, which Blaze brings up, telling everyone to check for. This is also where we learn that the phones are in a safe with an automatic timer, so they won't be able to open until the
Yep.
following morning, and that there is a jammer blocking cell servers and internet that needs to be reset by 2 people, which is accessible almost exclusively via zipline.
Yeah, it's in like a tree house that you have to
Yeah.
zip line to.
Which, as genre savvy readers, I think we both could see the writing on the wall with that.
Yeah, not great.
Not great. But Anastasia and Jurek agreed to go do it. Anastasia honestly being kind of hilarious and saying, if it's about getting the internet back, you better believe I'll get it done.
Yeah.
I think they do a good job with a few different characters who have less desirable traits,
Yeah.
They make no issue of some of these people being like bad people or unlikable people, but they do
Yeah.
bring it back with them being like likable characters, I think, with pretty much across the board. Like I think Aaron
Agreed.
loses a little bit of time, but with like aside from him, I think everybody else gets to have really good likable character moments, which is very
Agreed.
important when you know that
Yeah.
a bunch of people are going to get murdered.
They put a lot of care into like actually focusing on each character and giving them
Mhm.
all very definable traits and kind of coming back to that stuff and having a lot of stuff connect with it, which is very
Yeah.
nice.
It works real well.
Yeah.
So Jurek and Anastasia head off on the zip line.
Yep.
And you'll never guess, we get a reaction shot of Anastasia yelling, "Wait, what is that? Oh my god!" And then we cut away to another scene, which is so rude because that was such a fun, intense moment.
Yeah.
Where Aaron is trying to smash the safe open. He has thrown it on the ground. And we learn that they haven't even tried just unlocking it.
That's what they do.
But then they do. So Gaia uses her little fingerprint, unlocks the safe, only to find that it is empty. The phones are not there. Somebody else got to it first. But then we go back to Liz and Tommy, who are they have such a good dynamic going, where they both
Two
suck.
scumbags.
Two scumbags. And they are just both acknowledging that they are both scumbags. And just like your scumbagging is not getting in the way of my scumbagging, so whatever.
Yeah.
Which is such a great dynamic.
Agreed.
But Liz finds in this shed that they're checking for tools to break into the safe, Liz finds a computer that seems to be on with internet. So the internet's happening already. If only they had a way to access it. Unfortunately, Liz's phone, as we know, is getting bad reception. So she is not able to get online with her phone yet. She is called out for her scumbaggery in a pretty major way, where Tommy reveals that he knows about an embezzling, or not embezzling, but a big rug pull on Gaia's shares, which of course Liz can't get out. So Liz murders him. She fully stabs him, puts the hashtag on the back of his neck. We have our top suspect. Just kidding. I think this was a pretty intentionally blatant red herring.
I wouldn't say red herring. She literally states that she's not the killer and that she's gonna frame the killer for the kill.
Oh, never mind. Not even a red herring. Look. Good catch. But importantly, she also finds...
unrelated murder, because there's a lot of scumbags here.
Yeah, there's a lot of scumbags here. But she also finds a Gaia Media ID with a copy of Blaze's book. So
that's right.
Even more suspiciousness. Meanwhile, back in the house, Blaze has figured out that the killer seems to be targeting people going by follower count. Theoretically, yes, going up by follower count. Theoretically, oh no, I forgot her name. Damaris. Theoretically, Damaris should have been killed before the photographer, or I'm sorry, before the chef. But she had deleted her social media accounts after reading his book, so she
she's not
very
in the order
much
anymore.
Exactly
Saved herself there. Good move. Very smart move.
Also, without a social media presence, is Tommy, Gaia's father. So he should be excluded from the ranking as well.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this is when we head back to Anastasia and Jarek, who are headed right for a giant buzzsaw.
An utterly giant buzz. Like, I feel I need to state that, like, this book, it plays in the thing of being, like, a kind of just wild concept and stuff, but most of the stuff is, like, I don't know, fairly, like, reasonable.
Feasible, yeah.
This is utterly absurd.
It is big enough to cut a human being in half on one pass. Jurek tries to explain to Anastasia that they need to, like, drop, they need to let go. He drops, he lets go to save himself, but Anastasia does not. And we get a brutal moment where you see her body continuing on as he's dropping, just covered in blood from where it's been fully bisected. Which is raw as hell. Insane stuff.
Then he squares up, man.
He does. Ready. He crashes to the forest ground, and I don't remember if by now they have dubbed him this, but they start calling the killer hashtag because of the hashtag mark. But he squares up with hashtag to take us into issue 4.
Yeah,
I think issue 3 was a solid ramp up. Yeah, I think issue 3 might have been my favorite issue. I think it has the benefit.
Issue 2 has my favorite kill, but I do think issue 3 steps up the stakes.
Oh yeah, and I think it hits that really sweet part of horror where you don't quite know what's going on yet, so there's all of these possibilities, so you get to play with a lot more.
When I started formulating my theory, and I'll once we get to the end, I'll say I was so staunch in my theory that I did not end. I ended up getting blindsided by the actual reveal because I
love that.
I locked onto my theory.
I was correct about my most specific who, but I didn't have my secondary correct. Okay. We'll get to it at the end. But we jump into issue 4. So far, 3 people have died. We lost the cameraman, we lost the cook, We've lost Anastasia.
We also lost Tommy, though, just not via
Yes,
the
just not to
killer.
the killer. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that is a lot
They're
of kills.
dropping.
Yeah.
Well, there were only 9 guests plus
Mm-hmm.
the cook and the camp. So out of 11 people, 4 are dead.
Yeah.
Like,
They are
we're
moving
going.
through it breakneck, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
so fucking
Which
good.
is what I love in a horror book. Like, we don't get enough time to ever really recover. It's like, as soon as you start getting your bearings, nope, hit again.
And I think one of the good ways that Wando does this is with all of the ways that he manages to separate people, and it never feels like a stupid
feels
separation.
Supernatural compared to a lot of books where it's like, let's split up to look for clues or gather, or I'll go down here alone. It's very nicely done the way that he splits.
But we open with my favorite sequence from the whole book, which
I
is
love it.
a 4-page sequence of Yurik fist fighting hashtag. It's covered in panels.
German suplexes. Fucking dude. One of these pages. It's brutal.
These pages are covered in panels, covered in blood splashes. It's super energetic. It makes me wish that there was like more combat in this book, even though that doesn't really make sense for the type of book it is. But I love so much that Wando was like, I'm gonna make one of my fighters an MMA superstar, so I can do
a bare knuckle brawl book. Like Wando doing like something that just has like that fisticuff brawling would be so good. And
it's so good. It seems that Yurik is getting the upper hand, and then hashtag applies some freaking like Wolverine claws, and gets a real nasty punch right underneath Yurik's jaw, and fully rips it off.
Yeah. Man tears out his jaw. Utter absurd visual.
Insanely well done. I loved that sequence so much. It was such a such a high of the book for
me. Fantastic.
But of course he ends it off by carving a hashtag on the back of his neck. Back at the house, everyone is telling Blaze that he's crazy for the social media hierarchy theory, in which Blaze then reveals what he was writing on that plane. His kind of fable about social media and a killer who brands with hashtag, which naturally greatly upsets his social media starlet wife.
Wait! Can I back up and say naturally? I think this was an absurd reaction. This man wrote a little fiction thing about people dying, and she's like acting as if he was literally planning to kill her. Utterly absurd reaction.
I disagree. If I heard, like, let's say tomorrow morning I got married and I went to my beautiful wife's notebook and took a look at it, and I saw that she had written a horror story about a comic writer bookseller being murdered, I would be very freaked out and very upset. Imagine if those murders started coming true.
I mean, I don't know. I thought it was a fairly absurd reaction, but it's like, you wrote a horror story? Oh my god! Evil
man. Horror story isn't what gets me. Not even the fact that the murderer is using the framework of that horror story. It's that he wrote a horror story in which the character who's getting brutally murdered is very clearly an analog of his wife.
Firstly, I don't think he says anything in this thing that would imply his wife. He just says going up, killing people by their social media following.
Her entire thing is her social media following.
His entire book's about internet. I feel like it was an absurd reaction. We'll move on though, because I thought the reaction was fairly absurd. The amount that these people get on this dude's ass.
Here's the thing: Aaron, the filmmaker, I don't quite understand his reaction. Gaia's bestie, I very much believe her reaction as well. Like, if my best friend's partner wrote a story...
We've been on. Let's move on. We've been on this
but
now.
so they all turned against Blaze. Whether or not that's a valid reaction, let us know in the comments. How would you feel? But in any case, it brings to the front the actual mechanics of these murders and makes it all a little more believable that this is happening in like social media order.
Yeah.
Which is just in time for them to hear the zipline coming back huzzah! Clearly that means the jerk and Anastasia flipped the breakers or whatever. But no, Anastasia is strung up on the zip line, the top half of her hands bound with Urick's head held in them.
Yeah.
Insane visual.
Wild. Love it.
Truly bonkers. Another really well done, just like death thing. And of course, the hits just keep coming because Liz comes running back and explains that while she and Tommy were in the shed, the killer came and Tommy like defended Liz and told her to run, and he died because of it. Possibly, she didn't see it happen.
Yeah.
Which notably distresses Blaze, who's like, no, Tommy didn't have a social media following. He was not on the list. Clearly, hashtag would not have done this.
Yeah. Very suspicious.
Yeah. Honestly, very suspicious for both of them. For Liz to be like, this has happened even though it breaks pattern, and Blaze to be like, there's a pattern. I'd be suspicious of both of them. No one is safe in this book. Everyone seems suspicious, and I think it's so well done.
Yeah.
But so they start to argue about that. Liz also brings up that she found a copy of Blaze's book in there. So there's a lot of finger pointing going around. We see a bit of a breaking point for Gaia, who is very upset that everyone is trying to like control her, and they're talking about her like she's not there, which, you know, valid. They are. I am Team Gaia. But she says that she's taking this into her own hands. She's gonna go see if her dad is alive. So they head back to the shed, and they find her dad is in fact dead. And when she asks for a moment alone with him, the party respects that, which is very nice of them. It immediately set me on edge with like, no, people can't be alone. You all know this. You've all been ascribing
there's a pattern.
to this.
You know,
There's a pattern.
She's the last one to die, so she can be alone. It's fine.
But Tommy breaks the pattern.
Yeah, but we know who killed Tommy.
Yeah, but they don't. But Blaze does point out that this is also a very different type of kill. Tommy's just like leaning up against the wall with a stab wound, whereas the killer has otherwise been like really theatrical with his kills.
Yeah.
Which, you know, say what you want about the murderous hashtag, there's artistry to it. She has her moment alone, and she finds her dad's secret camera, in which he has filmed a confessional where he tells her that he did in fact bring the camera because he sucks, and was gonna sell his pictures to Jeff Bezos. But he also tells her that Liz killed him and what Liz was planning. So
yeah.
Everything is boiling up. Gaia keeps this pretty close to the chest for now, but she doesn't trust Liz, and she doesn't trust her husband anymore. So it's all falling apart.
I'd back up. She still trusts her husband at this point. This is the point where she's trying very deeply to get alone to talk to him, to tell him what she's found out about Liz.
Yes, but she doesn't trust him. She specifically tells Damaris and Aaron, I know you're the only ones I trust right now.
Oh, okay, that's fair, but she is still... There's a moment, I think, where her trust for him takes a much sharper turn.
She believes that he is not the killer, because earlier she said, I believe you, I just don't trust you.
You're right. That did happen. But yeah, she's trying to get alone right now to talk with him.
Yes. But we also find in this shed, there are all of these books with like ramblings and ravings about followings and algorithms and stuff like that, which is a little disturbing and horrifying, but on brand for our dear hashtag killer. Just in time for all of this tension to be happening, music starts to blare as the entertainment arrives. Red Eye, famous in-universe rapper, was being brought in to be the entertainment for the reception. And you'll never guess where he falls on the follower track.
It's right next.
Right next. So he's being flown in a helicopter. the music is blaring, so he can't hear them yelling. He's like, if you're excited about the wedding, put your hands in the air. And so they're like, no, don't come. It's very well done. And it ends with, of course, now somebody, anybody, everybody scream. And then him getting a fucking spear thrown through him. So we were all screaming, absolutely. The helicopter, of course, fucking crashes because a fucking spear has gone through it and explodes.
I will say the idea that, you know, as the art shows, a spear like cuts off two of the helicopter rotors is an utterly absurd thing.
Look, superhuman hashtag strength. I will say I have a problem with this kill that I'll get to when we get to the end of the book that I'll bring up as well. But we have a very dramatic the fall of the microphone in isolated panels that really helps break up. I think this is a really beautiful page. I like this page a lot. This absolutely like blows the top off of everything. And immediately guys like, Liz, I know you fucking killed my father. What the hell? We need to get out of here. I know that you're gonna try to murder me. And I know about the phone you have, which is kind of the big thing. Because now it's like, it's go time. We gotta fucking go. You killed my dad. That is less important right now than the fact that we are all going to die. Liz, of course, is gonna be a bitch about it. She, like, takes credit for all of Gaia's success, because she's like, you were falling in numbers, and then she recruited these, like, mathematicians to make a specific algorithm to boost Gaia in followers, and they immediately are at each other's throats because she tells Gaia that not only does she own her, but her dad is better off dead for her brand, which is insane. Insane thing to say to someone. Even in this stressful situation. Gaia literally tackles Liz as our girly pop gets the phone, but unfortunately, it doesn't matter that they have the phone. Because they still have to go and reset the dampener. So we're gonna go on a little ATV adventure through the forest. And now is the time to do it because hashtag is preoccupied with going to make his little hashtag mark on Red Eye. We take off into the woods and we see that hashtag is actually in fact tracking them. Presumably via the secret phone. Very red end.
That's the end of issue 4. Yeah.
Which takes us to our final issue, where it all comes together. Bad reception, issue 5. It is thunderstorming as we go racing through the forest on the ATVs. We get right into the action on this one yet again. Again, after issue 1, we really jump right into things every single time. Where Liz just like sucker punches Aaron in the head so that their ATV crashes. Naturally, Gaia and her bestie go running over to help Aaron, who is, both of their friends, and Liz yet again sucker punches someone or hits her with a stick and steals the phone, steals an ATV, and drives off, while the others go to lift the ATV off of Aaron, who is now paralyzed. Really horrifying stuff. Liz has a plan to, take the phone, activate the tower, call in private security for herself, and then tell everybody that everyone else on the island was murdered, or at the party was murdered. Deranged when you were all working towards that goal, but then at least she, gets out of the one murder. Gets out of the one murder and probably gets a ton of money from Gaia's accounts. But they're not about to let that happen. Blaze tells Gaia and her bestie Damaris to go after Liz so that they can get that phone, because that phone is their only way out of here before they all get murdered. And he is going to stay with Aaron because he has a plan for slowing hashtag down.
Yep.
Yeah. In Liz's attempt to escape, her ATV gets stuck in the mud. Bummer. Hate to see it. And then her leggy gets bear trapped. Such good, I love a bear trap in a horror thing. It's so horrifying.
It's so funny to me that, the killer in this is like full Hunter vibes when like there's no real reason for that.
No, there's truly not. Like we had the whole motif in the first issue with like hunting the deer, and then we had the like spit roast pig moment.
Oh yeah, no, they lean into the Hunter motif a ton with the killer. There's just like, based on the main story, no reason for it to be that way.
But you know what? It's a vibe, and again, I respect Hashtag's commitment to the bit.
For it. Yeah, give the killer a vibe. It doesn't have to, have a deep reason.
But yeah, so Liz gets trapped in a bear trap, which makes it real easy for the others to catch up to her. As she begs for mercy, she gives the phone to Gaia, who then decides enough is enough. She is not going to save her. It's immaterial anyway, because Hashtag appears and squeezes her head until her eyes pop out. It's horrifying.
Brutal.
Wando really in his element with these kills. It's terrifying, but luckily...
A lot of eye stuff.
Right? Luckily for both the girls, Aaron is next on the list, so he does not even try to kill either of them. Because that
man's committed to the list.
Yeah, he's committed to the list, and we respect it.
We do.
We cut back to Blaze and Aaron, where Aaron is currently unloading a whole canister of gasoline, leading up... I'm sorry, you're right. Aaron is paralyzed. Blaze has unloaded a canister of gasoline, leading to the ATV, so that he can, when he sees the murderer coming, he can light a flare and drop it and explode the murderer. The only downside, Aaron is the bait, so he also covers Aaron in gasoline.
A wild turn for this character in this moment.
Wild. Like, he...
I know that Blaze, there's the Blaze obsession with the killer stuff in the past, to be the red herring for him being the killer, because it's his plan stuff. But that's a different kind of unhinged, oh, maybe he's actually the killer. When it's revealed in this moment that he's not the killer, you realize we got no hints that he was just willing to murder people to save himself. Yeah,
he had talked about kind of his returning to primal roots and stuff, but that I feel did not hint at this at all.
No, this is one of the character turns in this book that I was like, I'm sorry, I got a little whiplash right here.
Yeah, truly insane, absolutely bonkers. It does give him a moment to do his little monologuing, which I feel anytime Blaze talks, it just I feel like I want to space out.
I'm not even saying Blaze talks. I just think the monologues in this book aren't because there's another monologue that we'll get to at the end.
That's fair. That is very fair.
I don't like the monologues in this book when it gets to the point where it's just one character going on for a long time. It just feels like it's a lot of nothing between a couple things that actually are the points. Yeah. And yeah, I think it's the weakest part of the book for sure.
That is super fair, because Blaze is normally the one to monologue. But there is another one that definitely does the same thing.
But in any case, shows up.
The killer shows up. Blaze lights his flare, burns Aaron to death, and explodes the ATV, seemingly killing the killer. You love to see it.
Fully engulfed in flames. No, cutaway, no him running away, and we hope it works. We see this killer fully inflamed.
Insane. But Gaia has made it to the communications tower, along with her bestie, and they start climbing up. We get another little moment of, I think, weird dialogue where
it's kind of a monologue.
They start to talk
about.
I
forgot that this came before the later one.
I also forgot that.
Yeah.
They start to talk about what it means to be online all the time, and
I will say, I do like the concept of her monologuing while her friend is freaking out that she's not actually
Yes.
doing anything.
Mhm.
I like that. I like the friends dialogue here a lot.
Yeah.
I just think the actual monologue is a little rough.
Mhm. Yeah, agreed. But all this buys enough time for Blaze to catch up. Blaze explains that Aaron is dead and tells them that Aaron was very brave and offered to blow himself up, only for that faded zip sound. The fucking killer is back. It's Scream 101. If you don't see him physically die, he's coming back.
We did see him on fire, though, so, you know,
On fire,
wild.
but not die.
Wild.
The killer comes flying in, and one detail that I love is Blaze jumps out of the way, and it's Gaia's bestie who like tackles her out of the way. It's just like Gaia and Blaze really are not couple goals. Like fully not
which is funny because I feel like, you know, and I get they were portrayed like in the pre like wedding thing as like being a very good couple, and then it's just like we get here and then it's like no, not
like no, actually it was all a facade. But Damaris, on top of tackling Gaia out of the way, also like fully piggybacks onto the killer because she wants to make sure that hashtag doesn't hurt Gaia, which we stan Damaris, frankly. She's out here doing her best.
Wild thing to do on like this monster of a man.
Oh yeah, like he's probably truly 4 times her size on
he
the page.
Is absolute Batman before absolute Batman. This dude is a behemoth.
But as he is about to kill Blaze, who's next in the social media following order, a voice yells off screen to stop. And we see Gaia standing there with lightning crackling in the background, the killer standing over Blaze with his glowing knife, and she says he needs to know why. How do you like my wedding gift, husband? And so it is revealed that she set all of this up. She found the document where he was writing his story, which again, like this is a little much. I think reacting badly to that is fair. Reacting badly to that in a way that then causes you to make a bunch of murders.
I still lightly do, but anyway, this leads us to a 4-page long monologue from her, because this book loves a good monologue.
It loves a good monologue, and I don't love it when it does.
Which is like you can do a monologue on 1 page. Like give us that splash, stick a bunch of bubbles on there. It's stretching across 4 pages a while.
And
anyway,
they use what gets me is I understand why. It makes sense from like a production point of view, I suppose. But 1, 2, 3, 4.
Are you talking about the same panel of him
of
that's
Blaze's
used like
face
9 times?
Literally 8 times.
8 times
across the pages of him just like looking startled in a reaction shot. And like there's 1 page where there's a trail of bubbles all the way down, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool looking.
I don't mind
and
that
then
one.
There's a second one.
Like the thing is, like, I don't mind a panel being reused on the same page when you want to like appear that they're the same thing. This same panel is used across 3 pages. Like, too much.
Too much. And she goes through and talks about all of the ways that everybody who she invited to the wedding had betrayed her in some way. Liz with all of the like back trading stuff that she was doing.
All the stuff that we've kind of already hit and did. Her father, you know, was gonna sell the stuff.
But she actually didn't want to kill her father because she was like, maybe I would have reconnected with him, but Liz murdered him. Rip. And she ends it with having I think it's revealed in here that it's her bodyguard. They started referencing him in the first issue with like Mauricio will take care of it or whatever his name was.
It's her bodyguard who's like an ex-military type guy,
which like you'd think if they had leaned into him being a hunter would have made sense. But yeah, that was my call. Like as soon as we got through the whole first issue without seeing him once, I was like, I bet it's that man. Like the guy who they just keep being like, oh, Mauricio will take care of it.
I figured the physical killer was gonna be him, or it was just gonna be kind of like somebody that was paid off or whatever. But I was really confident that her best friend was going to be the one who was pulling the strings, because they kept telling us that she deleted her social media right before she came, and she was like really bitter about how bad social media was and all that stuff. And I was like, it just makes sense. She pulled herself out of the list, so it wouldn't be suspect if she jumped over herself. I was like, it feels so set up. She's bitter about social media followings costing her acting jobs. I was very confident on that.
That is fair. That is fair. But yeah, I think the Gaia doing it really did come as a good twist, like a twist I didn't see coming.
It genuinely worked for me. I think because I had convinced myself so much in my theory, but
and I think that her motivations do make sense from like a deranged point of view. So I think she was a good choice for the killer.
Agreed.
I do wish that there was a little bit more between to like emphasize her, because she talks about how the bodyguard was like a huge fan of hers, and I feel like that's like not quite enough for me. I wish that they had like I don't want them to be like fucking or anything, but like some sort of deep personal connection.
I also would have liked some more hints in some way, at least in her behavior, because I feel like up until this point she behaves exactly as you would expect her to behave. In terms of like being scared at the right moment, being concerned, like keeping the group together. Like there's a lot that were like, I feel like if she was unnaturally calm in a moment, or if like like I feel like it could have been more stuff peppered throughout. But I don't think
just to real quick cap this off, and then we can talk a little bit more about the murder.
Sorry.
You're good. She reveals to her best friend that she brought her with because she wants them to like rise to stardom again together. Because even though her friend was struggling as an actor, she never asked for a plug or a shout out or a signal boost or anything. And so she's like, you're my only true friend, which deranged. And then she's like, okay, yes, I will do this with you, which is also deranged. That was like my big gripe.
It's insane. Like, it's insane that the setup for this is like, I haven't talked to this person in years, and this is my old college friend, and then like, this person never asked me for anything. Maybe because you weren't like close friends where she thought she could ask you for something. Like, it's not like you were talking.
I also feel like it was such a disservice to her character to have her like agree, because then we have a 2 years later thing.
I thought it was a setup. Like, I thought she was saying okay, because like in that moment there's a killer right there. She's like, you can't say no in that moment. And then I thought we were gonna get a setup where maybe she was like, I'm gonna take you down, right? I'm gonna reveal you.
But we don't, because 2 years later we see that the two of them are starring together in a movie about their experience. And like, I guess that's an okay ending.
And they have like a fun text message exchange that's like not,
like they clearly like have a great relationship, and like I am all for ride or die, but this was like a little too much.
No, and I feel like if you wanted this, you should have leaned more into the like French, like her side of the friendship being like unhealthy, to where she was like obsessed with her, or like really like it was just a like normal, really good friend who you think wouldn't be okay with you committing mass murder.
Like, she at no point, like, I can see Gaia being like a deranged individual. Right? Like that works. But then it happening to Damaris as well is like, I think a little.
I think it's the hard sell in this ending. For sure.
But it does also bring up my one little gripe that I mentioned with the helicopter. Theoretically, the bodyguard was driving the helicopter.
Yeah.
Where did the spear come from?
I have because I don't think theoretically he was driving the helicopter. He couldn't have been driving the helicopter because we see him on the ground like 5 seconds later. So maybe, I guess since she set it up, she could have had somebody else fly him in, instead of the bodyguard, but would obviously not ever explain that. Like, she could have just told everybody else that she had the bodyguard flying him in and not have the bodyguard flying him in.
It was a weird little loose end that I think, because when I saw that happen, I was like, this throws a little bit of a wrench in my thing, but it's not major enough that I think
the bodyguard should be dead when that crashes. And blows up.
And
no, it's
who
weird.
threw the spear?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that made it a little tricky.
I think the idea is that because like I don't think there's any way for him to have been flying that helicopter, because we see him on the ground like very soon after. So I think the implication is obviously that he's not flying the helicopter, but it's definitely weird that the book doesn't give us like anything.
And like,
there.
I think it would be less weird if they didn't also emphasize, like, they were giving us updates on Maurizio's location, the bodyguard's location. Like, oh, he's flying the priest out, and now he's coming back.
I think that's meant to like give him the alibi, to some extent. But then it's like, you kind of want the explanation, like, because it is super simple, where she just says like, and I actually had this person fly him out, and that guy died too. Like it's a pretty simple explanation where it's like, oh yeah, he wasn't. I was lying to you all about where he was. You know, like,
because it also throws a bit of a wrench in, because I don't love that I'm being a like micro examiner like this. It does bother me a little bit, because I feel like you could have gotten away with it very easily with like, oh, and because he also has his alibi because he's flying the priest out.
Yeah.
But what happened to the priest? Did he like speed him out and get back before doing his kills?
I don't think he was ever actually flying these people. I think she was lying about what he was doing, is the idea.
But the fact that the helicopter comes back with the guy from the outside throws that off for me so majorly.
No, because okay, so I think again, I think it should have been explained, but I think you're like missing the obvious thing that she could have just had somebody else doing the flying. Like, she's the one telling everybody who's doing this. She can lie and have somebody else doing it.
I hear you, but the problem I have with that is that the people that she kills are all people who she perceived as wronging her. I guess the entertainment wasn't really. No, it was, because he was going to drop like an album about her.
Yeah, she could have gotten somebody to fly them that had wronged her.
I
wish there was an explanation in the book, but I think the clear implication is that Marcia wasn't actually the one flying the plane at any point, because he's always there. He's always there hunting and killing people. Yeah, exactly. But he's always there. I think the very clear implication is that he was not flying. I wish there was some explanation of who she got to do it or something. But I think the clear implication was that she was lying about him flying the plane, because otherwise the book does not make any sense if he's like on the plane while he's committing murders.
But yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because it's like the muddy part for me that made me be like, oh, the conclusion doesn't quite work as like a reveal.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, overall, I think that this book had a really strong identity. I think that it had a lot of strengths to it, but I do also think that it had a few pretty big weaknesses to it.
I think the rough thing is that the bookends were like
exactly
the beginning, the first issue and the last issue were the weakest points, which is not exactly what you want. Like, it had a really good middle. The actual like slashing of it and dying and the tension and all that was really well done, but like the setup and the payoff were a little bit weak, I think.
Which is tough, because that's what you're left with at the end, right?
I no, fully agreed. But my big like structural, I guess, like my actual like complaint about the book, because I think like a lot of the character work was really, really good. I think the art was really, really good. I think like we talked about like how they actually separated the group in good ways. Like, I feel like the actual slasher was really well thought out. The one thing in like the literal construction of the book that I didn't love was I did not love the dialogue in this book. I think the dialogue was very heavy-handed. Like I said, they leaned into really trying to give all of the characters like identities, but that led to like the same things being reused for them a lot. Like Gaia says lol out loud phonetically, and not only does she do that repeatedly, but other characters constantly mention that she does it and says like, say the words, you say lol out phonetically, and I'm like, multiple characters do not need to say that sentence. It's real.
Agreed. And I think that's one of the reasons
it's
that
very stacked up across all the characters.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that the monologues are such a weak point, because it is just
it's
like
just so much
full dialogue moment.
Yeah,
and I feel like a lot of them talked very unnaturally.
Agreed.
I mean, even Gaia's line when she's like revealed to be the killer, "How do you like my wedding gift, husband?" is like so canned, right? Like, it doesn't.
Yeah, I'd be willing to excuse that one if more of the book was, because you'd always be like, oh, that's like the rehearsed line or whatever. But like when the whole book's like that, it does get you get there and you're like, oh, did these characters like actually speak? Because it's kind of wild what they a lot of the dialogue.
Yeah, so a bit heavy-handed. Majorly heavy-handed. and the dialogue was not great, but really, really good art, really good kills, really creative kills.
And I think that allows the book to still be like a really enjoyable read.
Oh
And
yeah,
I think like that's the big thing with it. Like again, the beginning of the book, a little bit of a slog because that even the ending, like the very ending in that monologue, a little bit of a slog because of that. But outside of those moments, it's a really nicely flowing book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's at the beginning. I said I was on a bit of a roller coaster, and it really is just a little one-hump roller coaster.
Yeah.
But it was a good time. I'm glad we read it. Have
same.
you read Bad Reception? If so, let us know what you thought about it down below. Do you like the slasher type of story being brought into comics? I think it's something that works really well personally, but obviously there are a lot of things in movies that they could get away with that you can't really do as well in comics.
I think it's a big I think it's such a I can't think of the word. It's very it's hard to predict whether you're going to get a really good or really bad book when you're reading like a slasher comic. Like
very
it can be on hit or miss. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. But also please let us know down below if you have any suggestions for future Strange Saturday Super Shows. We're always looking for the weird, unusual books to read in this
we sure
show.
are.
But
make sure you check out everything else on the channel. We have our regular episodes that go up every single Wednesday where we talk about our polls for the week.
Talked about the new ASM in this past week.
Sure did. Amazing Spider-Man new start. This is the first time both of us are reading it live. We also have bonus content that comes out. We have monthly recaps of everything that happens in DC's Absolute Universe. So if you don't want to read all of the books but want to know what's going on, we've got you covered there. Full spoiler discussions there to give you the full lowdown. And we have even more bonus content coming. We'll have tier lists at some point.
I think that's the next thing we're doing.
I think so. I believe so. And eventually we'll get back to going through the massive verse as well. Because we've been reading through Kyle Higgins.
We have some interviews that we're trying to get on the docket. So the goal is to bring a lot more interviews to you guys in the near future. So if you like the interview content, let us know who you want to see us interview. But
but be sure to subscribe to add us to your pull list.
And we'll see you next week, Comic Geeks.